Poveglia Island sits quietly in the Venetian Lagoon in northern Italy. It is a small, flat patch of land, divided by a narrow canal and surrounded by gray water. From a distance, it looks peaceful. Overgrown vines, decaying brick buildings, and an old bell tower rising above the trees. But this island holds a reputation for deep historical dread. The island's isolation made it useful for containment. In 1776, the Venetian government established Poveglia as a Lazaretto. It was a quarantine station for shipping. When ships arrived in the lagoon carrying infectious diseases, passengers and crew were forced onto the island. During the devastating plague outbreaks of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the quarantine became a death sentence. Thousands of plague victims were brought here to prevent the spread of the disease in Venice. Many died on the island, and their bodies were buried in large, unmarked communal plague pits. Local legends claim that the soil of the island is partially made of human ash from the burning of bodies. While geologists note that the soil is ordinary silt and dirt, the scale of historical deaths is real. In 1922, the island found another purpose. The existing structures were converted into a public hospital. Officially, it was a sanatorium for the elderly, but local stories claim it functioned as a psychiatric asylum. According to these legends, the hospital was run by a doctor who experimented on his patients. He reportedly performed primitive lobotomies and surgical experiments in the bell tower. The story says the doctor eventually went mad, claiming he was plagued by the spirits of the island. He reportedly fell or threw himself from the bell tower to his death. In 1968, the hospital was officially closed. The staff departed. The patients were moved, and the island was abandoned. For decades, the buildings have decayed in the lagoon humidity. Roofs have collapsed. Vines have grown through the empty windows. And the old hospital beds lie rusted in the overgrown corridors. The Italian government has kept the island closed to the public. Authorized entry is rare, usually granted only to film crews or scientific researchers. But the isolation has only made the legend stronger. Paranormal investigators have visited the island, reporting disembodied voices, shadow figures, and extreme feelings of dread. Yet, we must look at the facts. Poveglia was indeed a quarantine station, and plague pits do exist in the lagoon. But Venice has several lazarettos, including Lazaretto Nuovo and Lazaretto Vecchio, which also held plague victims. The story of the mad doctor has no historical support in municipal records. No name, trial, or death certificate exists for a doctor dying at Poveglia in the manner described by the legend. The hospital was primarily a care facility for the aged, not a highly secure psychiatric laboratory. But the physical reality of the island remains. An abandoned hospital in a quiet lagoon, a historic plague cemetery, a decaying bell tower, and a government restriction that keeps people away. Is Poveglia haunted by its past? Or is it a quiet monument to how Venice protected itself from disease? The old buildings will eventually crumble into the water. The vines will cover the brick. But the stories will remain. This is the file on Poveglia, a quarantine island, a place of isolation, an abandoned hospital, and a legend that refuses to fade. Maybe the lagoon holds the ghosts of the plague. Maybe the stories are a mixture of municipal history and modern horror. Or maybe the silence is the only thing left. Unexplained does not mean proven. It means unfinished. And this file is still open.